Good afternoon, Chamber members. For those of you who I have not yet met, my name is Sabrina Binkley, Head of School at Spruce Tree Montessori and this year's 2020 Board Chair. The Fairbanks Chamber is taking steps that align with the advice being given by state health officials and professionals to protect our community from the spread of infection by bringing you today's program live from the Carlson Center to you at home or work. I'd like to take a moment to thank our executive partners. These members invest beyond their general membership dues and select one of our 4 tiers of investment. Executive partners sustain the Chamber and allow us to be successful and for community. The Fairbanks Chamber greatly appreciates their support. A full list of our executive partners can be found on our website. I'd like to welcome Brenna now to help recognize our new and renewing members this week.
Thank you, Sabrina. We'd like to thank the following renewing executive partners: Flowline Alaska and Golden Valley Electric Association. We'd also like to thank the following renewing members: Interior Alaska Building Association, Aurora Villa, Opera Theater, Flott, Wholesale Furniture, Chena Hot Springs, Alaska Fun Center, and Alaska Universal Productions. Thank you, and back to you, Sabrina.
On behalf of everyone at the Chamber of Commerce, our hearts go out to those impacted directly and indirectly by COVID-19. This includes not only those who have family or loved ones in cities and states where the virus is prevalent, but also those who operate retail, service, or public spaces in Anchorage or the Northwest, those whose jobs and business practices have been impacted. Our focus is, as always, on advocacy for business and economy while serving as a vehicle for networking and the sharing of knowledge. Today's virtual meeting is aligned with that goal, holding the utmost of care and concern for the health of our Chamber members and guests. This is certainly a challenging time for businesses, schools, families, and children, and our hearts are with you. The past week has been full of rapidly distributed guidance, changing perspectives, and a swirl of information. As our community responds to the advice of state officials and health professionals on how best to protect the collective interests of our local population from dramatic spreading of the coronavirus, we share in the uncertainty, the challenge, and the hardship that this uncharted time presents. The Chamber is no exception, and we're taking necessary steps to protect our staff and our members while also bringing you information relevant to our business community despite the health emergency unfolding around us. As an example, there are only 8 people here today to bring us this production to you live, and we're all maintaining a 6-foot separation from one another. We all washed our hands for 30 seconds, and we have hand sanitizer here and at the back table. As I continued my commitment to community, this week's reflective prompt is more of a personal realization. A realization that this uncharted time is perhaps an opportunity to review and renew best practices, enhance our workplace wellness standards, collaborate on how best to support one another from our children to our employees, those in low risk and high risk demographics, and to more purposely use our time at home. I'm more mindful of my own hygiene, sure, but I'm feeling more compassionate about those around me and thinking about how they may be affected by this. I'm thinking about my own business, sure, but I'm thinking about yours as well. How yours supports mine, how mine supports yours. I would ask for your continued patriotism during this time where caution will serve the greater good. I'd ask that as a Chamber we band together for practicing social distancing but supporting local business, continuing to be productive, just in a different way. Our Government Relations Committee met this morning and received an update from some of the Interior Delegation members. They discussed some key bills the Chamber has been tracking, including the motor tax fuels bill, electric reliability organizations, appropriations bills, the operating and capital budget status, and the national resource water designations. At this time, our legislators are most focused on delivering on their constitutional requirements of passing a budget, as well as clearing the Capitol building practically of people so legislators can do their part to minimize exposure and get home to their families. The Board of Directors will meet via conference call on Monday, March 23rd, and we'll hear from Myron Dosh, Chief Financial Officer of the University of Alaska, as he talks about debt servicing at the university and important budget issues. I'll now ask Marissa to give an update on the advocacy efforts, events, and programs hosted by the Chamber so you can still be a part of the informational hub that we all use to share knowledge and thoughts.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. I just wanted to take a few moments to update our members so that you're aware on all of the programmatic cancellations and postponements, and just make sure that everyone is aware of what we're doing and what the future will bring for us. First of all, we're going to be continuing to bring you these weekly business luncheons each week via the same service so that you can watch it on the web from the safety and comfort of your home or office. You can find links to these webcasts in your newsletter that is sent twice weekly. That's called The Scoop. And if you're not currently receiving those, you can go to our website and get signed up to receive those in the future. You can also find those links on our website in the event listing on our calendar. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that if you registered for an event that was coming up here in the next few weeks, if you registered or bought your ticket, or if you used one of your prepaid lunches, I just want to let you know that those refunds are in the process of being made. If you haven't seen a refund hit your credit card yet, that will hit by Thursday morning. And then if you've got any questions about that, please give the Chamber a call. The ConocoPhillips luncheon that was originally scheduled for this Friday has been canceled, and it will be rescheduled if Ryan Lance's travel schedule opens up later in the year and he's able to make it up to Alaska. In the meantime, all tickets and sponsorships have been refunded, and again, you should see those hitting your credit card by Thursday morning. The March session of Leadership Fairbanks has been postponed until April, but this month's speaker was Kelly Height McGee. She's the administrator of the Surgery Center of Fairbanks, and that portion of the program will press forward via a webcast for the leaders that are in that Leadership Fairbanks class only. Yesterday's guidance that was updated or provided by the government recommends no gatherings larger than 10 people for the next 8 weeks. And when we looked at the calendar, that does create a potential and likely conflict for our military appreciation banquet that is scheduled for May 8th. So stay tuned for updates on that as we look for a new date. That event will not be canceled, it will be postponed. All of our committees will continue to meet and actively track legislation. They will be doing all of those meetings at least through the end of March via teleconference. If you've got questions about committee activity, if you want to join in on those calls, please email Janelle at fairbankschamber.org, and you can find her email address also on our website. Those are all the updates that I have for you. You can find all of this information and more on our website at fairbankschamber.org. And on behalf of the entire Fairbanks Chamber, we just want to let you know that we appreciate everyone's patience and flexibility as we continue to provide outstanding customer service for all of our members here in Fairbanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Marissa. Our main presentation today is about high energy costs, which, as we know, are a barrier to economic opportunity in many areas of Alaska, including the interior. Affordable energy will encourage capital and infrastructure improvements and lower costs for residents and businesses. We are pleased to have John Burns here to educate us on the Railbelt Reliability Council and explain the potential impacts of related Senate and House bills. John Burns specifically asked that we shorten his bio today, so I'm going to say just a few things that I know. He's a lifelong Alaskan. He's a practicing local attorney. He's a former Alaska Attorney General, and he is a UAF graduate. So I'd ask that we please welcome John Burns, Vice President and General Counsel for GVEA. Thanks, John.
Sabrina, first, thank you for the kind and short words. I appreciate it very much. As Sabrina said, John Burns, VP General Counsel with Golden Valley Electric Association. I have the privilege also to be serving as the interim President and CEO while Golden Valley does the board does a search for Corey Borgeson's replacement. So. Before I start into the substance of my presentation, I wanted to start by first assuring each and every one of you that Golden Valley is committed to keeping the lights on and in providing power to our members and the communities that we serve. We are closely monitoring, as all organizations are, the status of the COVID-19 and are preparing contingency plans to ensure continued smooth operations and reliable electric service for our members. We are also taking responsible, measured steps to ensure the safety of our employees and our members. In these stressful times, we all need to be flexible, supportive of one another, and calm. And particularly as all of us, business leaders in this community, it's important to remember that our words and actions matter. What we say and what we do as leaders in this community has an impact on our employees, on our family members, and in the communities in which we live. The purpose of today's presentation is really twofold. First, to provide you with an overview of GVEA's generation sources and how those resources play into the cost of power, and also to update you on the formation of what we are proud to call the Railbelt Reliability Council and the status of Senate Bill 123, which is legislation that directly relates to railbelt electricity and reliability. So with that, let me move forward on these slides. And I appreciate having been asked to do this presentation. This is the first for the Chamber, and I'm delighted to participate because, as I think it's important that we embrace technology and look at opportunities, different opportunities to get the message out to everyone. I wanted to first start the presentation off today by giving an overview of GVEA's generation, and I think it's important because it has an impact on the cost. So this slide reflects GVEA's generation. As you can see, we have an aging fleet. We have two our sources of energy from the generation side. We have coal, we have oil, we have the largest wind farm in the state of Alaska and the second largest solar farm. But the point of this slide is to emphasize the sources of generation and also the realization that fleet is a fairly aged fleet, and that will be one of the strategic decisions that the board will have to be making in the near future as we progress forward to make changes. This slide reflects the renewable energy power purchases that we, in addition to the power that we generate, we purchase power from Bradley Lake Hydro. We are a part owner in Bradley Lake, as are the other Railbelt utilities. Alaska Environmental Power, which is a project in Delta. We buy their load, which is 2 megawatts. And then our SNAP renewable energy producers, which is really, it's a delight to see this slide because you can see the growth in this level. You can see that just in the last year alone, there were a significant number of new contracts that were entered into. And then the third source is our power purchase sources. This is where we buy. This is an additional source where we buy power. We've got Aurora, our neighbors across the river. It's a usability operation, Aurora Energy, and they're phenomenal from the standpoint that they are 25 megawatts, and for the most part, it's base load, and it's something that we can regularly count on. We also purchase power up from the south, from the other Railbelt utilities. We've got MLMP, MEA, HEA, Chugach, and then we bring it up. We bring it from South Central up to Fairbanks over the Alaska intertie. As you can see on the slide, the intertie is limited to 75 to 80 megawatts, and historically, Golden Valley has purchased a significant amount of power up through the intertie. However, when we are able to generate with Healy 2 on and the other generation sources that we have, we bring up significantly less power over the intertie. And price matters, because although we have historically called it economy energy, if we can produce energy ourselves for cheaper then we can bring it up on the intertie. That's our objective. So the generation is we generate power to serve a load. This slide reflects Golden Valley's sales composition, or what we call our load. And what's important about this slide, not only does it show that in 2019 it was approximately 1.2 billion kilowatt hours, what it also shows is the mix. When we say mix, this is the load composition. You can see from residential, commercial to industrial. And what this slide emphasizes is the fact that when we make decisions, it affects each of these customer or member bases differently. Industrial, which is a major component of the load, their focus may be on one issue. Residential may be differently. So the board in Golden Valley, as we make decisions relative to cost and long-term investments, we have to be mindful of the impact that it has on all of our members across the board. So we had generation, we have our load, and now we're talking about the cost of what we call fuel and purchase power, which is roughly 1/2 of your bill. The fuel and purchase power is what we pay for the energy, okay, whether it be oil, whether it be coal, whether it be energy purchased up the intertie. It's a pass-through. It's a complete pass-through. There's no markup to it. It's just a complete pass-through. Whatever we have paid to generate or to purchase power is passed through. And so this slide reflects the previous 5 quarters. And as you can see, the first 3 quarters, we like that trend. That's the trend that we should always be striving for. It's a downward trend indicating that the cost of our purchase power is going down. You can see in the 5th trends, particularly the 4th trend, we went in the wrong direction. And the question is, why? Every one of you out there who are members should be asking why, and you deserve an answer on that. So the response, and understand that the COPA, we're projecting into the future. We're trying to project what the next 3 months will be. And, oftentimes, I don't know about you, but our crystal ball is good, but it certainly is not perfect. And so when there are anomalies on the system or occurrences that occur over which we have no control, it affects the bottom line. And so you can see in the December, from the period December to February, the cost of fuel, the fuel and purchase power increased almost 20%. So it was a 1.8 cent increase from 9.177 to 10.998. The numbers, don't seem significant, but you can see the impact on the bottom line. $10.93 increase on the residential bill. So that's a residential bill being roughly 600 kW per month. So the average usage, that's annualized. So $10.93 on an annual basis. So the question is, why the increase? So you remember we bring up energy across up from along the intertie, and that includes the purchase power and that includes our Bradley share. So we have an interest in Bradley, roughly 16.9% interest. And so we're trying to bring up as much of our allotted interest in Bradley up the intertie. Plus, when economy energy is available, or power from South Central that can be cheaper than ours, we bring that up as well. And so you can see what happened. If you all remember, in August there was a fire in the Kenai area, and it burned. Essentially, it eliminated what we call the SQ line, which is the link that brings Bradley power up. That was out from August to December. What that meant is not only are we at Golden Valley not receiving our Bradley Lake power, but none of the other Railbelt utilities that receive Bradley Lake power are receiving theirs. So we have no ability to purchase power from South Central. And then on top of that, Healy 2 was the output from Healy 2 was less than we had hoped. And so the combination of all of those instances and those issues resulted in the exacerbation of the costs. So that was last quarter. Now this quarter, the COPA, or the fuel and purchase power quarter just beginning March, it's relatively flat. Okay, so there's no increase and a very, very slight decrease. So it went roughly 0.29% down. We consider that flat. So the question now is, why not more of a decrease? Okay, the SQ line is back on, so we're able to get Bradley Power. So these are the reasons. So although we are getting Bradley Power, there's limited purchase power available from South Central utilities due to gas supply constraints in Cook Inlet, and that is and may continue to be a problem because South Central, those utilities are predominantly gas driven. So if there's not a supply of gas, what they're doing is generating to meet their needs. On top of that is there's planned maintenance of our plants. The North Pole, Aurora Energy has planned maintenance, and as do Petrostar. And it's not a matter of being able to just extend our planned outages, because those outages are coordinated with the other Railbelt utilities as well, and the other entities such as Petrostar. Because when we shut down, we want to do it in conjunction with Petrostar, who's a major supplier of our fuel. So these planned outages are really planned and coordinated amongst other utilities and entities as well. So it's not a matter of simply saying, well, move it. Cost of power balancing, this is the more complicated component of it. But as I said, the fuel and purchase power is a look forward. And then when we get to the end of that quarter, we have to look back to see how we did. And if we underestimated, then we have to make up for it on a go forward. So we're bringing forward if you might say, a balance due and trying to capture it on a go forward basis. And then finally, Healy 2 output projected at 30 megawatts, which is a little over half its load. And so we're making, what we are doing on the go forward is we're making a conservative estimate of what the fuel and purchase power costs will be. I am hopeful and very optimistic that when we get to the end of the quarter, that many of these things that we have conservatively estimated based on previous instances are much rosier than anticipated, because Knockwood or Healy 2 has been doing very, very well, and that has a significant direct impact on the cost of power. So that's the cost of our power. So we started with generation. You can see how generation affects the cost of power, and now I want to share with you some really, really good news. Historically and understandably, every power utility has focused on its own interests. First and foremost, our responsibility at Golden Valley is to ensure that our members are adequately protected, that they have the energy that they need when they need it. So when it's 40 below, the expectation is when you turn on the lights work. And so we have to, as a utility, be mindful to ensure that we have enough generation so that if we are unable to get any generation from the south, we're still able to generate all of our needs locally. But we are also mindful that we can no longer just focus on ourselves. We're an integrated system from the standpoint that we depend on, and we need to be supportive of one another within the Railbelt. And although I say an integrated system, the picture reflects the what we call the Railbelt system. And so you can see the one tenuous line that goes from South Central all the way up to Fairbanks. And so we're interconnected in that we have what we would call an extension cord to get power up the intertie. But when that extension cord is severed, whether it be because of a storm or power outage or for whatever reason, we have got to be assured that at Golden Valley we can produce the power that's necessary for our members. So the Railbelt Reliability Council was formed to bring all of the Railbelt utilities together, along with other entities such as independent power producers, the Alaska Energy Authority, non-affiliated individual or entities that have a knowledge of Railbelt energy issues, but who may not be generators of electricity, and also consumer advocacy. So what has not happened previously is you have all of those stakeholders together, making decisions on behalf of the entire Railbelt, not simply their own, from their own perspective. So they're not just simply focusing on themselves. The Railbelt utilities have historically worked very well together, but they're, like any family, there have been issues. And we've been criticized in the past, and I think to a large degree appropriately, that we've not been inclusive. And so the Railbelt Reliability Council is aimed at achieving just that. And so the focus is on the Railbelt as a whole. And so we will be focusing on reliability issues, making sure cybersecurity, the same cybersecurity standards apply up and down the intertie. Interconnection requirements. If you are an independent power producer and you're connecting a project in Homer, you should have the similar standards in Fairbanks. So not every utility would have different standards, which you have to go through all of the ropes. The expectation is that there will be a system-wide integration. We're looking at costs, for dispatch. If there are areas within the Railbelt that are constrained, we want to address those and fix those, because the bottom line is our members, deserve the lowest cost and should expect the lowest cost power that we can responsibly provide that assures reliability. And so we're also looking at integrated resource planning. So how do we look at generation and infrastructure as it affects the entire Railbelt? The bottom line, though, is that every utility, just like Golden Valley, has a responsibility to meet the needs of its own members. So we will never sacrifice our members' interests and security for something that's simply convenient. But it is about time that we as utilities work together collaboratively to achieve what's in the best interest of the whole. Railbelt Reliability Council, why it's important for the reasons that I just talked about. It's a commitment of all the utilities to work together and to be bound by the decisions of the Railbelt Reliability Council. You cannot say, I don't like it, I'm taking my marbles and leaving. You are bound to work collaboratively together. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to one another. It's a commitment to the state of Alaska. It's a commitment to members that we are going to work through issues to ensure that that decisions are made on behalf of not only our individual utilities, but the Railbelt as a whole. So it's a significant achievement, long overdue. So the legislature was somewhat instrumental in this, as well as the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, because it's almost the trust but verify. Because the Railbelt utilities have been criticized, and I think to a certain degree fairly, that there have been lots of promises of advancement, and yet we haven't been able to deliver on all the promises. We've delivered on many of them, but not on all. And the legislature in May said, guys, we understand what you're seeking to do, and we applaud it. However, we also need to be assured that it happens. And so the legislature, both at the Senate and the House, drafted, and the Senate side 123 and the House 151, and this is legislation that the Chamber has supported, and I think has written a letter of support in favor of it to the legislature, and it seeks to achieve what we call an electric reliability organization within the Railbelt. Essentially the same objectives of the RRC, but it's mandated. And what it essentially says is that, first of all, it gives the Regulatory Commission of Alaska authority over the RRC, the Railbelt Reliability Council, or what we will end up being as an electric reliability organization for the Railbelt. So it serves as checks and balances from the standpoint that the Railbelt Reliability Council will propose requirements for the group, and that they can be enforced or appeal to the RCA. So it's a forms of checks and balances, and the RCA plays a pivotal role in it. The second component of it is integrated resource planning, making sure that we are, as a Railbelt, looking at the best interests of the Railbelt, that there are plans that are being developed that address Railbelt reliability and Railbelt issues. And the third, which I will tell you was probably the most problematic for many of the utilities, is what we call project pre-approval. It provides the RCA the authority. First, it requires that new projects be presented to the RCA for approval. And the concern on that is that we're circling back to for the first slide on the generation. You see that we have some aged and aging generation fleet. So Golden Valley likely will be looking at how do we address that. What generation do we want to put on, and those are decisions that really affect most significantly Golden Valley's members. And so it's appropriate to ensure that decision is made prudently, that the board addresses cost components and all that sort of those other aspects of it. And so, the concern is, what rights now, if you have to present a project to the RCA for pre-approval, how does that impact the ability to get something done? And so we are confident, and there again, it's time will tell, but we are confident that the RCA will act in a manner that does not put one utility at the risk of being challenged by other utilities. And so there's a lot of local focus on ensuring that decisions that are made locally that are prudent, that can be established as being prudent, do get approved. So we're really excited. I can tell you at Golden Valley, there's some trepidations with all utilities. Every utility has the same thing. It's one thing to be able to control, your environment in that. It's another to have faith that you're going to step out and everybody's going to be focusing on the same similar issues. So we understand that there will always be disagreements, but like any responsible adult, you deal with issues and you work collaboratively and cooperatively, and so we're confident that this process will achieve that. I'm also happy to say that the legislature 123 has passed the Senate, and the companion bill 151 has gone through two hearing committees, and in finance, actually resources, I believe it merged into 123. So there's only one bill. And so it's, hopefully it indicates that very shortly it too will be approved. So the next step, it's in rules, and as I understand it from rules, it goes to the House floor. If it gets out of rules, it goes to the House floor, and assume it'll go to the House floor as 123. The House version of 151 has been merged into 123, so there's only one bill, and hopefully, at the House level, it will be approved on the floor without amendment, and once that's done, then it becomes legislation that goes to the governor for signature. So it's looking very optimistic. We'll see what happens in Juneau in these times. So I think with that, we're done from the presentation. It's open to any questions from the 8 members that are here, and to the extent that there are any from telephonically. So I really do appreciate the opportunity to present. I can assure you that Golden Valley is absolutely committed. We understand that we are mission critical and we are mission focused. So we are acting very responsibly for our own members' safety and that of our employees. But bottom line is, the lights stay on and the power gets delivered. So, any questions? Sabrina.
So I wanted to thank you, and in the spirit of the presentation you gave to our board last week, can you comment further for our general membership about the budget of the Railbelt
Yeah.
Council?
So the question is, what's the financial impact of it? It's a great question. That was a question that the Chamber Board, acting responsibly before they endorsed the legislation, asked. And the bottom line is no one knows specifically. You know, the utilities will be contributing resources from the standpoint of technical advisors, personnel, that sort of thing, to address a lot of the Railbelt issues. And we do that already. The unknown is what the cost component will be from the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. And so we are hopeful and confident that we're not going to create another layer of bureaucracy, and that the as the RCA develops some some regulations that relate to it, that the utilities will have a role in the development of those regulations, because cost matters. You know, the whole point of the RRC and the legislation is to reduce the cost to members. And so the last thing that we want to do is to increase the layer of bureaucracy that translates into higher costs. So don't know the answer. Long and short, do not know the answer. The expectation is that it's not going to be significant. Time will tell, but I can assure you from Golden Valley's perspective that we will be paying close attention and steadily advocating to ensure that the cost is down. So great. Any other questions? Anything? Well, listen, again, I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to working collaboratively with all of you as we work through this the COVID-19 issues. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And thanks for helping the Chamber do our good work today, just in a little different way. And thank you all for joining us in our first live stream today. For those of you who would have normally attended our luncheon and or purchased 50/50 tickets, may I suggest that you take that money and perhaps spend it with a local business or donate it to a local nonprofit providing critical service during these challenging times. We're working on presenting next Tuesday's luncheon virtually as well at noon as scheduled, live with Colonel Benjamin Bishop as he presents his annual State of the Wing address. So stay tuned to our website and twice weekly newsletter called The Scoop for more details. Thanks for tuning in today. Be well, Fairbanks.